Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Today, we're digging into something, well, maybe a little unexpected.
Oh.
Credit cards.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we use them all the time, right? But have you ever stopped to think about, the history of credit cards?
It's not something you think about every day, is it?
Exactly. But it turns out there's this whole story there, and it's surprisingly fascinating.
I bet. Where are we starting?
We're diving into a book called Plastic Capitalism by Vanatta.
Okay.
And it gets into how credit cards went from these small, local things to the huge networks we have now.
Sounds like quite the journey.
It is. So, to kind of set the scene, picture it post-World War II. America's economy is booming. Everyone wants the latest gadgets.
Right, consumer credit is king.
Yeah. But here's the thing I never realized. The New Deal, way back when, was still shaping how all this played out.
Really? How so?
So back then, the New Deal was all about local economies, right? So you had these price controls, limits on how much banks could expand. They called it financial federalism.
Okay, I'm following.
And this actually made banks kind of hesitant to get into consumer credit like department stores had with, their own credit systems.
Interesting. So different rules for different players.
Exactly. So how did these early credit card programs even work with those limitations?
Well, it was all about partnerships. Small banks, they found a way to work within the system. They teamed up with local merchants and offered what they called charge accounts.
Charge accounts, is that like an early credit card just for your town?
Basically, limited to a certain area. One of the earliest was back in 1951, Franklin National Bank's Charge It plan.
Charge it. I like it. Straightforward. But they focused on local businesses, and it's interesting, they really targeted housewives for these cards.
That is interesting. Makes you think about the context, right?
Totally. Was it about giving women more financial freedom? Or did it kind of reinforce those traditional roles, keeping spending focused on the household?
It's a big question, and it shows how these cards weren't just about the technology or the money, they reflected social stuff too. But as programs like this Charge It thing took off, they started hitting those geographic limits. Bankers realized to really make it big, they needed to go national.
Right, break free from those local constraints.
Exactly. But creating a whole nationwide system, that, as you can imagine, came with a whole new set of challenges.
I bet. Like what?
Well, think about it. The technology was still developing, banks were competing with each other, and get this, they had pushback from people, consumers. Even the government wasn't thrilled.
Wow, okay, so a lot more to this than meets the eye. I'm hooked. Okay, so to get a national system, it sounds like they needed some serious innovation. What happened?
Well, the 1960s were a wild time, right? Big changes socially, economically.
Right, a real turning point for the U.S.
And that's when Bank of America, they really shook things up. They started mailing out Bank America cards to people who never even asked for one.
Wait, what? They were just sending out credit cards unsolicited?
Yeah, it was a bold move for sure.
That's a pretty big gamble. What were they thinking?
Well, they had this vision, right? They believed in computers, this idea of mass consumer markets.
Right, everyone having credit cards.
Exactly, even if people didn't know they needed them yet.
So that's where we get all that junk mail today. All those credit card offers, it all started with them.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And of course, the other banks, they saw this and thought, we got to get in on that action.
Oh yeah, competition time?
Big time. Everyone's trying to keep up, and some didn't fare so well.
Oh.
Take Continental Bank, for example.
Okay, what happened there?
They saw Bank of America's success and thought, hey, we can do that. So they decided to blanket Chicago with credit card offers.
Just like that.
Yeah, but they weren't ready for what happened next.
What went wrong?
The applications started pouring in, way more than they could handle. Paperwork piled up. Fraud went through the roof.
No.
It was a mess. They lost a ton of money, almost went under.
Wow, talk about a cautionary tale.
Right. It shows you, even with all the excitement of new tech and big ideas, the basics still matter.
Absolutely, but this wasn't just a business story, was it? It sounds like it really impacted people directly.
Oh, for sure. This whole thing with unsolicited credit cards, it caused a huge backlash.
I bet. I mean, getting a credit card you never asked for, that would freak me out a little.
Yeah, people were worried about privacy, about going into debt. It became a political issue.
So it's not just about plastic and payments anymore, it's about, what? Our rights as consumers.
Exactly. You had congressional hearings, politicians like Wright Patman, William Proxmire.
I know those names. Weren't they big on consumer protection?
Huge. They were like, hold on, banks can't just do whatever they want. They really pushed back.
So the credit card debate was heating up.
Oh, totally. You had this battle for control over the whole industry, innovation versus regulation, and it was just getting started.
Okay, so last we heard, Citibank was ready to rumble using credit cards to take on, well, the system.
Yeah. They were in a tough spot, see. They had this national credit card program, but they were losing money hand over fist.
Why? What was the problem?
Interest rates.
Yeah.
They were limited by those usury laws that states had. You know, the ones that set a cap on how much interest you can charge.
Right, to prevent predatory lending and all that.
Exactly. And for a bank like Citibank, operating across state lines, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, I can see how that wouldn't really work for a national credit card. So what did they do?
Well, this guy, Walter Wriston, he was running Citibank, and he had this whole different philosophy. Shareholder value, they call it. Basically, profits for investors are all that matters.
Okay, and how did that play into this whole interest rate thing?
Well, it made them, let's just say, a little less concerned about playing by the rules.
Uh-oh.
They basically said to New York, hey, let us charge higher interest rates on our cards, or we're taking our business elsewhere.
They were calling New York's bluff. That's ballsy.
It was a power move, for sure. And it put New York in a bind. They didn't want to lose Citibank, all those jobs. Yeah. But raising interest rates, not exactly popular with voters.
So did they give in?
Nope. Citibank packed their bags and headed to South Dakota.
South Dakota, why there?
South Dakota was hungry for business, and they were willing to make a deal. They got rid of their usury cap, rolled out the red carpet for Citibank.
So win-win for them, right. But what about the other states and the whole idea of consumer protection?
Well, that's the thing about a good deal. Everyone wants one. Once South Dakota changed their laws, other states were like, hold on, we could do that too.
So it became this race to the bottom.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And with it, the whole landscape of credit cards shifted.
Yeah.
Less regulation, more competition, and profits. Well, they took center stage.
It's kind of mind-blowing how one bank's move could change the entire industry.
It really shows you the power of these systems, right? How even small changes can have huge ripple effects. And we're still living with those effects today.
Absolutely. And it makes you think, with new technology like mobile payments and all that, what's next for credit cards? And how will it impact us?
It's a question worth asking.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, the story of credit cards is far from over.
Definitely not. If you're intrigued by all this and want to learn more, definitely check out Plastic Capitalism by Vanatta.
It's a fascinating read. Really gets you thinking.
It does. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.